insane. Everybody want to know my name. Yeah, here comes the glass road. Yeah, here comes the glass road.
I've been awake for a while as usual. This morning I was watching Zendala this morning. She's a black host of a show. She has a really good vibe. She had this girl on there and they were complaining about fossil fuel subsidies. We've got to stop the fossil fuel subsidies. The people in Washington DC know what the problem is. The problem is fossil fuel subsidies. And you're listening to it going, we're about to be in a Great Depression with the fossil fuel subsidies. Did anybody catch that? No, you didn't? The stock market collapsed, that's why. The stock market tanking is why. Granted, 150, whatever, I guess it's a point from the S&P. I always think 50 is a lot. 150 is a lot in one day. Is that why we're in trouble? No, it's because of everything else. But did anybody notice the number one producer of palm oil is not selling palm oil anymore? What? Yeah. Is palm oil how we eat? It's how we eat cheap. So, is that going to affect the price of food? What is inflation? Inflation is when the government's not doing a very good job and they have difficulty procuring important items that are essential in the production of like things that the general population needs. So, does the general population need palm oil? I feel like there are alternatives, and that's just how it is. Okay, so the government, they seem to not be so concerned about the palm oil. Joe Biden is going to go send out a team of environmentalists. I'm going to hire all the environmentalists. What are we going to do with them? They're going to count trees. So on Earth Day, Joe Biden sent out people to go count trees, right? That was his thing. He was like, I'm going to go find all the old trees and we're going to do an inventory of trees. So you're going to use a bunch of fuel to go count trees, right? I'll burn down all the fucking trees and put new trees there. That's the thing about me. I feel like people think that old trees are helpful in capturing carbon emissions. I think that we need to stop using fuel. Fuck carbon emissions, stop using fuel. When I ran for president, that was my whole thing is, we need to stop using fuel. But the government, they're like, oh no, you guys can keep using fuel, keep burning as much fuel as possible, everything's fine. We're gonna kill you with COVID-19 and you don't have to worry about anything. If enough people die, we're set. So like, is that actually how I see people as thinking of it? I think that's pretty much how people think of it. Like, once you guys are dead, like, who gives a shit? Because, like, chances are, if you live in the United States, like, it's illegal for you to have a garden. Not really, but generally. Like, could I have a garden at my house? I can't change a tree in my house. Like, no one has a garden in this neighborhood. We're not allowed to. Could I have a garden at my last house? In no possible world could I have a garden at my last house. Could I have a garden at my house before that? I don't know what my homeowners association was like in Kerrville. That was in high school. Could I, like, the last place I could actually have a garden, I'm pretty sure, was in California, and we did have a garden. And that's why, like, my mom was a gardener. Like, she grew all sorts of vegetables. My grandpa was a gardener. So, like, I grew up working in the garden, pulling weeds and stuff. And that's why I think it's so important that the general population get gardening lessons, like how to farm. I think that our schools will make sure you know the dumbest shit ever. No, trust me, we need to make sure the curriculum says this. Trust me, I just need to make sure they know that what happened was, like, the black people were getting treated mean by the white people, and that's what this was all about, and, like, there was nothing, like, this is what it needs to say. Like, I mean, granted, like, were the black people getting treated by the white people in the history books generally? Very, but, like, I'm just saying, like, the priorities in our textbooks tend to be like, we need to make sure that the history says this. It's not like, we need to make sure you know how to grow food. Because, like, if you guys are growing food in your house, or at your house, are you going to buy less groceries? Is it good for the environment? Does that capture carbon? Is it good for you from a health perspective? Does that reduce our medical, like if everyone's a gardener suddenly and everyone's growing their own food, are they suddenly going to be physically fit? And would that decrease medical bills? Yes. So, is everything about people having home gardens good? Yes. Is it very unlikely that you can have a home garden? I think it probably is. Even if you're someone that can afford it, or even if you're someone that has the space, you probably can't afford it because you got to go buy the soil, you got to go buy like pesticide, you have to go buy seeds. You might want to set up a drip system. You're not going to be able to do that unless you can. You might want to do this. There's like a list of things you might want to do that you probably can't do because you have to pay for it. And setting up the home garden initially requires physical effort, knowledge, and money. And so, like, you might not be able to afford it. And that's the thing about, like, all the incentives say you're not allowed to. Like, it's not an incentive. There is no, like, in no possible universe am I allowed to grow a garden for a lot of people. But, like, for people that can grow gardens, they have no incentives to grow gardens because it's not worth it. Like, they're not going to get enough yield. They're not going to, their work is not going to pay off enough. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have someone to teach them. They've got to figure it out themselves, which, by the way, YouTube, Epic Gardening, that guy, he knows his gardening that well. And if you want to learn how to grow a lot of different crops, that guy will teach you. And if you're in California, like, he's a very, very helpful person, especially because you're in the same zone as him. All right, so all I'm saying is that, like, it seems like the government, like, won't even float the idea of lowering the speed limits. Hey, we need to save fuel. We'll lower the speed limit. No, trust me, we're fine. Just burn the fuel faster. You're good. Don't worry. You're gonna be dead, so you're good. And that's kind of the situation there. It's like, can you guys at least try to save people first? And I think the government's like, no one wants to. And I tell you, that's because you're concerned about property values. You're concerned about the stock market. Like, I know, like, everyone, like, thinks the stock market's crashing. Do I think it's crashing? I don't know. All I know is, like, it's been fraudulent for a long time. Like, stock markets don't crash until they've been fraudulent for a very, very long time. And this has been a very fraudulent stock market for a long time. But, like, when, like, your palm oil supply disappears and then everyone goes, everything's fine, like, our entire society is built around food, but everything's fine, that's when you know, like, the stock market is fraudulent. All right, so I think we should have a gardener training program. I think that, like, we should have gardening training programs in the schools. I've been to schools in California where they have community gardens and school gardens where the kids work in the gardens. I think that like, all schools should have gardens, and, like, that should be recess during, maybe not, but it should be part of the resource. Like, half the recess is kids working in the gardens, because why wouldn't we have kids working in the gardens of their schools and learning how to take care of gardens? And that should be part of the education component, because why can't education be practical? I think it's because everyone wants education to be about activism, and that's why I talked about, like, everyone wants to know about white people being mean to black people, and that's the history. Like, that's what you need to know about in school. Everyone needs to know, like, stupid shit. In a lot of cases, they don't get basic financial literacy lessons, but they get bullshit lessons. Like, you guys need to understand, like, supply and demand, like on an extreme level, but you're not going to have basic financial literacy classes. All I'm saying is that, like, I think that we need to change our society. And so on Earth Day, the guy that lost when he ran for president, the guy that apparently was, like, completely slandered, I didn't see it because I was censored when I ran for president. He's saying, we need to change our society. Like, because we can either have the politicians view the situation as we build our society around killing our own people, or we build our society around being sustainable. And I think that, like, clearly the killing people is going to work eventually. The biological weapon was released, and it's out there that much. But we all need to recognize that, like, that was an extreme thing to have done, and because it was such a fucked up thing to do, it's like, we don't want to have to do it again. Like, we don't want to have to be in that situation again. And if we want to be in a different situation going forward, which we are still in the same situation as when the biological weapon was released, I know what everyone's thinking, like, it didn't even work. It'll work. I'm just saying, like, I think that, like, they got it out there that much. And, like, it will work, but, like, I still think that, like, all of us, the people that survive and the people that are not, like, that are still living right now, need to figure out how to, like, not waste so much fuel, and we need to stop being idealists. I mean, it's like, what's his name from the CIA? He's not from the CIA anymore. He's from Congress. He's my congressman. He's an idealist. He thinks we should all just float on the clouds. Yeah, I'm sure he's not feeling like an idealist now, because, like, the reality is that, like, that biological weapon, that'll hit you pretty hard. Because I think of the whole situation as, like, that palm oil, it might not be available to Americans specifically because of the biological weapon. And, like, I don't think anyone, like, has considered the ramifications of that. And I think that probably, like, my people have, like, I say my people that I snitched on, like, they have, some of them have. I don't know, like, I don't know. Like, I mean, like, I feel like if everyone kind of knew, they should have taken the situation more seriously and, like, leaned on the government a little bit more. But it's hard to lean on the government in that situation. Like, no one knows how to get the government to stop fucking being assholes to me, because I think their real problem was local police. Because, like, these local police are, like, basically federal agents without bosses, because they have the same goal as the feds, which is stop the drugs. It's like, congratulations, you stopped the drugs. You might have stopped our palm oil supply. Like, you might have stopped the supply of, like, very, very crucial goods. But don't worry, Americans, no, we have so much power. We have nuclear weapons. Do you have palm oil? Like, we do right now, but the number one producer of palm oil is not selling it anymore. Fortunately, we have oil to trade them, right? Yeah, assuming they don't trade with the Russians or with someone else. Because the reality is they're still going to trade palm oil for oil. I promise. That's how they purify their water in Indonesia. They boil it with kerosene. But, like, I'm just saying, like, no one thought about that as, like, how have you guys not thought about it? Well, clearly, like, you haven't even thought to make sure that people can grow gardens. I mean, no, because you're worried about property values. I know. Like, my house would look like shit if I had a bunch of garden beds around it. I'd also be a lot better person than I am right now for not growing.